Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to be a little more schmaltzy? Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. Man, do we have a great show. I'm so excited about today. But first of all, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do that. Hit the alert button so when we go live, you know we go live, and then you come join us because that's the whole point.
That's
And
why
then
we
come
do all
join us.
this.
Yeah. Then no, you just don't want to see it and then go,
Right.
yeah, they're live. You want to come over and join us because that's where the magic happens. And then come join us on Facebook, A Tribe of Giants. There's a great group, a community of people all there to support each other. So that's a wonderful community to join. And if you're wondering how to be a little more schmaltzy, which is the title of our show, you're going to have to sit through this episode, and you're going to want to go
Hold on,
and
let's
look up upgradeyourlifetour.com and come to this event, Upgrade Your Life, September 17th and 18th, if I'm not mistaken,
That's right.
Panama City Beach, Florida, sunshiny Florida, and come join all three of us because we're going to be there. We're going to be speaking. We're going to be hanging out. We're going to be helping you to upgrade your life. So we're going to talk.
Different
We're going
from
to
Panama Beach, right? Like Panama
yeah.
City.
Yeah, Panama City Beach. Yeah.
Panama City Beach. Don't go to Panama Beach. I don't know where you'll be. We won't be there.
Right. It's a funny story, actually. So the first time my mom went to come visit us out here, there is actually a Panama City, Panama. And so,
Oopsie.
so my mom's like, she's like, I booked my flight. I'll see you guys, whatever the date was. And she's like, now why did it cost me $1,300? I'm like, what, Mom? Can you send me your itinerary? I looked it up, and she had booked to Panama City, Panama. I'm like, all right, well, you're not exactly going to make it here, but
If you go to Panama, turn around, then come over to Panama City.
Book another flight. Just head on over.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Fortunately, the lady on the phone was really cool. Said it happens actually more often than you know.
That's funny.
You probably see that every now and again, huh?
That's right.
Well, we got some amazing things we're going to cover. Nick, did I forget anything that I'm leaving out?
Just the introduction.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. So we got a cool guy, Tony Schmaltz. For more than 20 years, Tony's a leader in companies from anywhere from 80 employees up to 100,000 employees. That's pretty big. In that time, he grew many successful teams that helped increase revenues by literally millions of dollars at each location. And at one point in his career, he was the most sought after, or one of the most sought after leaders in the aerospace world, receiving calls virtually daily to entertain other opportunities. In 2018, Tony and his family moved to Florida from Washington State, where he began his coaching and consulting venture. And now he helps businesses and executives of all levels achieve the success that they truly desire. And he's lovingly known as the world's best belief coach. He helps people believe, achieve, and succeed in order to create miraculous outcomes. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Great.
It's a hell of a bio. Did you write that?
I did.
All by yourself?
Yeah.
It took a few tries.
Yeah. Let's add some words. It's great, man. That's great.
Hey, we also forgot today is Mother's Day. So for all you mothers out there, just want to let you know, Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, Huskies, Seahawks. Yeah. See, I'm going to control the comments if you guys don't do something here.
And we missed a few. Amy's like, ooh, wrong country. That's funny.
Well, we created this special banner for you moms out there.
Yeah.
Yay.
It was challenging to get that created, but we did it.
Yeah.
Happy Mom's Day.
Did you have help with that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into your journey, man. We're going to talk about your journey, your philosophies for life. It's all going to come out. All your deepest, darkest secrets are going to be there. So we usually start wherever you want. We can go back, like we started doing, is going back to development or an awakening period where you kind of had a realization that you'd been playing life pretty unconsciously, or automatically, or with the programming that you were handed, whatever it is, you choose. Like if it ties in to go into your childhood and development, then do that. But we like to just create the journey.
Yeah. So to speak to that, early on, I would say probably more so middle school, high school. I knew that things were going to be big, things were going to happen. I was killing it grade wise. I was playing sports, varsity sports, had all kinds of possibilities, teacher support, scholarships, potential scholarships for baseball. Blew my knee out senior year, and then all the scholarships went poof. I had the grades I still had to go. I didn't want to go unless I was playing baseball. And from there, I went the other direction. I kind of got into the wronger crowd and started getting into drinking and drugs and things like that, until I met my now current wonderful wife, Anika.
Wait, did you say wronger crowd?
Yeah.
There's the wrong crowd,
and then there's the
wronger.
Well, I mean, there's some of these folks questionable here. No,
levels of wrongness. And then there's the wrongest crowd, and then there's Wake Up with Giants TV.
Right.
Yeah,
we haven't put that on this level yet.
The wrongerist.
Yeah, right.
And then I met Anika, and from there, things started to change again back into the positive. I'd never messed with work. I always, made sure I was building my career, and even though my extracurricular activities were maybe not mostly positive, but I always did well at work, and grew a career, and helped she helped build my confidence level up. However, I really did fall into that program. I really did. I did what everyone said you should do, grow a career, advance, get an education. I went back to school, never got a degree, but I went back to school, doing what everyone said they thought I should do.
Right.
And finally, she sure did, Amy. And so when we left Washington State and came here to Florida, that was kind of what we were talking about being our reset. Even though we came here for a job, a company moved us out here. It wasn't until going through Hurricane Michael and the stuff thereafter that really, really gave us the real awakening that we needed. And go ahead.
What is that? So that awakening, what was that experience?
Yeah. So Hurricane Michael, for those of you who don't know, was it was a Category 5 hurricane that was blowing at least 155 miles an hour, sustained winds. That's not, the gusts were up to 200 miles an hour. It was just craziness to sit in the master closet for 3 hours as you hear stuff bouncing off the house, and shortly thereafter, we ended up having to leave the house that we were in. It was a house that we were, it's a whole story that we went under contract to buy this house because of the storm. The contract fell through. We ended up having to live in Airbnbs for like 3 months until we were able to buy this house. Well, it was the very first night of an Airbnb, and we're staying in a condo on the beach, which we thought was going to be really cool. We're on the 20th floor. We'd just finished moving all of our brand new stuff into a storage unit an hour and a half away because there was nothing else you could find after the hurricane. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night. I've got to go to work the next morning, and the alarms start going off in the building. I mean, they're like on the intercom saying everyone needs to evacuate. And we're on the 20th floor, and we get out and they're like, oh yeah, and the elevators are deactivated. You have to take the stairs. So I've got Anika and Marcus. Marcus is like 11 at the time, and he's half asleep. Anika's half asleep. I'm half asleep, and I'm dragging this family down, 20 flights of stairs in the middle of the night. And it's during that moment where I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm replaying what's happened over the last few months since we moved to Florida. And I'm like, okay, it's time to do something different. It's time to make a change. I cannot put us in a position to be like this again, And it was from there that I really, really started more into the personal development side. I started waking up to things that were around me and had more of an awareness of how much I was letting others make decisions for me.
Yeah. So you were more intentional. Like that, if I were to hear awareness as an intention, is that your life was less automatic and you're just going with the flow and whatever comes, is you really wake up and you start deciding what your life's going to be like. Exactly. You start deciding what's coming in, what's going out, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What a great definition.
it even was affirmed more after, you know, when we finally got into this house a couple months later, after being in Airbnbs for a while, things had finally started to settle down at my job because we had been in hurricane recovery mode for several months. And so as that started to settle down, we got settled here to this house. That new awareness was starting to open up everywhere. And so I'm at this company now that I'm like, holy Toledo, Batman, what the heck did I get myself into? This is the worst company I've ever worked for. I mean, it was just horrible leadership. There was nothing much going. And I'm like, I went from the greener grass over here to whatever the heck this is. And so
it's spray painted. Right? The grass is spray painted.
So it was really, it just kept piling on and piling on. And it was about that time, it was right after we got into this house that I actually, and then I actually hired my first coach, my first one-on-one coach. And that's when it really, really started to make the big difference. And when the path really started to become clearer and clearer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you started getting intentional about your life, there's this fantasy, right? That I'm going to get intentional and things are going to shift and it's going to be easy. Now, I would imagine, you know, based on what we teach in the journeys, I always look for agreement with what I teach, and maybe you can prove me wrong here. But we wake up to that awareness of how we've been doing things, and then we go into a judgment space sometimes. Some people don't. They just observe it, see it for what it is, but they go into that judgment space, and then they feel a deep amount of grief and sadness that they're not where they thought they should be, right? And so you move from that grief and sadness of I'm not where I should be. The next step is acceptance. It is what it is. So now what, right? And so did you skip all that? Did you kind of just go right into your job and you're successful and no issues? Or did you go through this phase of judging yourself and grieving what is and what's not? Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I can speak to that. No, I did not skip any of that.
Okay. Good, man.
In fact, I went from trading, going through the motions in one area to going through the motions in another area. You know, I took what I was learning from my coach and some of the programs I had purchased, and I just started going through those motions, you know, because that's what somebody said, oh, they did to be successful. So I just started going through those motions, doing whatever daily activities, reaching out to people. I was doing all of that, but I didn't have the belief. I didn't have the vision. You know, it wasn't really there. And so I was just exchanging one motion for the other. And then, you know, and when, like you said, when you don't see the results, you're not where you think you're going to be, then you start getting this self-doubt. You're like, holy crap, am I doing the right thing? Is this really what I want to do? Is this, you know, so you don't skip. In fact, I don't know anybody that's actually skipped that.
That was a setup.
That was totally.
I do that. I'll do that.
You were like, yep. We'd be like, okay, now we got to have a conversation.
Objection. This is all hearsay.
Hearsay.
You're watching Johnny Depp. This is all hearsay on my own question.
Well, and it's funny. So the belief is a roller coaster ride of beliefs. Because I was doing the coaching side by side to my career, to my actual job. And the job was it was like I was living two different lives. You know, I was having to be one person at the job and being somebody else. Even though I'm telling my clients, I'm like, hey, don't worry about what other people think. And I'm going to my job and doing the opposite. You know, I was very much out of integrity with what I was saying to my clients to a certain extent.
Can I hang on that for a second? Can you hang on your thought? So don't lose it. But I want to hit on something. Two things. Okay. One is that logically we all get this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I could teach it in my sleep. Right. Mm-hmm. But then you mix in this thing called chemical emotion, and that emotion gets in there with that knowledge. And it's like, I just forgot everything. Right. And then also, you know, regarding beliefs. So you talk about beliefs. Can you define the Schmaltzy version of a belief? What is a belief? And then go back into your story.
Yeah. So the Schmaltzy version of a belief today is that of already having what we want, already there, already created, have already created what we're working to create.
I like that. Yeah.
That's more the belief in the vision and what's actually happened. That wasn't the case back then. Not even close.
Yeah.
And then when I talk about being schmaltzy and I tell people to be schmaltzy, for those that haven't heard the spiel, the word Schmaltzy in the German definition means to be overly sappy or cheesy, like a joke is cheesy, which is, you know, me in a nutshell. When I say be Schmaltzy, like it says behind me, it's really me telling you to be the real you. You know, be the real you, because that's really what it's all about. You can't be anybody else. Everybody else is taken. You know, so when I say be Schmaltzy, yes, I am telling you to be sappy or cheesy, but I'm also telling you to do it your way. Be you.
Yeah. So seeing yourself at the end, you know, that ability to have that vision where you can see it completed leads to the hope of creation, right? Because when you have the vision and you have that belief, then you have hope. And when you have hope, you actually take action toward it. Because if you can't see it, if you can't see yourself doing it, it's really hard to put energy into it. And our body responds and provides chemicals that shut down the energy so that we actually don't take action, because we just don't see ourselves there. We just don't see it ever happening. So I like that idea of a belief is, you know, there's in German, they say Glauben, which means to hold dear. Mm-hmm. And so if you're holding this idea closely that says, I can't do that, then you're not going to do that ever. You're not going to put any amount of energy into it. But if you could see yourself there and you could say, I hold dear for me that I can do that, then you'll take action on it. Is that accurate, or is there another variation of that we could play with?
No. So you're hitting the nail right on the head. So I'm a firm believer in that your thoughts and your thoughts and your words create your world.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that everything's against me, woe is me, this is that, that's what you're going to get, you know. Yeah. But when you're thinking that this is happening for me and this is where I'm at, I'm already there, and you're speaking that into your world, then that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So no, you're hitting the nail right on the head. I'm a firm believer in what you think, your thoughts and your talk are really creating your world.
Yeah. Michael Lieberman, I think is his name, in the book Social, talks about the words that we use, the metaphors that we use for life aren't that far off from what's actually going on within us. Right. So when we say something hurts us, you know, he talks about social pain and whatnot. He says that we'll say words like that hurts, and it's an emotional thing, but it's not too far off from what we're actually experiencing. And so your words, when you say that your words matter, I think of, you know, our belief systems and our values really dictate what we predict, right? So again, dictating is like what you're speaking, and predicting is before what you're speaking. So you're playing it all out up here before you speak it. And then all of a sudden you speak it, and it's just a confirmation of what's going on in here.
Right.
Right.
I also like you, Tony. I don't know if anybody else caught this, but I heard he said, why is this happening this is happening for me, not to me, mm-hmm. which is the difference between, you know, just the perspective there. It's just a small shift. It's just a word, for me, not, you know, to me, but just shifting that just a little bit makes a huge difference. Is what can I learn from these experiences? You look around your circumstances. Okay. They might, like Amy said, they might really, 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 really suck at the current moment.
Yeah.
But what can you learn from them? How are you growing because of them? What type of a person are you becoming? Yes, victim versus empowerment.
Right.
Yep. So I'm sure you've had a few of those mind shifts, mind trips.
Well, absolutely. And so I don't know if anyone else caught it either, but when you first started the show, you said, well, you guys have to sit here through this with us. And I said, no. They get to be here with us.
Yes, they get to.
They get to be here with us. So,
you must.
and so it's back to the speaking and some of how it affects us and the people around us. Here's a simple one.
We just lost half our viewers now. They're like, oh, I don't have to?
Oh, thank God.
Well,
I'm out.
Bye.
Sorry. But one of the simple ones that most of us use every day that we don't realize what kind of impact it's actually having on people's subconscious is, how many times have you said, have a nice day? Every day. Yeah. And what you're really doing is you're demanding of somebody, you have to have a nice day. Have a nice day. Whereas if you were to change that, to create a great day or make it a great day, now you're making a suggestion to them that they take action on making the day great. But if you say have a nice day, then subconsciously they're like, well, that person's telling me I have to have a nice day. What the heck? You know?
Yeah. You're not my mom.
Right?
Yeah.
Mother's Day? Oh, wait, it is. We say make it a giant day. So go create it to be a giant tank.
That's right.
You go be you, boo.
So I'm looking at your journey. I'm looking at it in my mind here. I'm seeing it as you guys move to Florida and you're up on the 20th floor and there's these alarms are going off and you're sitting there waking up to this sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. And it's almost that metaphorical nail in the dog's back, on the porch. I don't know if you've heard that story where the dog won't move, but he's whimpering because there's a nail in his side. And another farmer comes over and says to the farmer, why doesn't he get off the nail? And the one farmer says, well, it doesn't hurt bad enough yet. And so when things hurt bad enough, we start to make a difference. We get, like somebody said earlier, we get tired of our own shit or tired of the repetition. Then we got to do something. And waking up doesn't make it any easier. It's just now we're aware and we still got to do the work. It's like, in some ways, it would have been better to be unconscious, but it's not better because you don't know where it's coming from. Things are happening to you, but now you have a say in your life. So you're coming down these stairs and you're thinking, I'm going to be more intentional around my life. I'm going to create things, right? And so you go through the grief cycle, you go through the judgment cycle of yourself, this is challenging. And the beauty of grief and all of this is it's meant to clear out. It's meant to put you in that space of remembering the good and all of that. And so you finally start moving into accepting that it is what it is. And then you move into gratitude for what remains and what you have potential for. Yep. And then you have the belief system, right, that says that I can envision this, which is a beautiful thing because we go right into vision. Because when you can see yourself there, it pulls you through the uncertainty. When you can see yourself there, you don't worry about how you're going to do it. You just know you're going to do it and that the how-to will reveal itself.
And that's it. That's it. When you put that consciousness there, like you said, when you see yourself there and you put your consciousness there, the path happens. You don't have to worry about what the path is. The path will reveal itself to you and it'll happen. You'll take actions that are towards that path that you don't even know are towards that path.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that works when you do put that belief system behind it. And that was something very, very recent for me. It wasn't until probably even the beginning of this year that it really started to really ingrain itself with me or in my being, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because I was so busy still getting pounded by everyone around me and still letting that affect me, whether it was emotionally or mentally or however. And when I really sat back and just said, what am I doing? More so just in my mind. One of the pieces of the story we hadn't got to yet is that, the company I worked for, actually, they let me go. They fired me, fired me in September of last year. And what was amazing about that to me was a couple things. One, I hadn't even had as much as a sticky note in my file. I mean, I was like, my team had just been recognized by the corporation as having the best numbers of any supplier quality team in the whole company, like 2 weeks earlier. And so I was sitting in this HR office going, this is interesting. You guys have never had a conversation with me, blah, blah, blah. So, but I walked out of that office carrying all my stuff in a box, which I've never done in my entire life. I've always been that leader in any company I've been at. First person I called was my wife, and she was at work. She's like, okay, well, we'll talk about it later. Next person I call is my coach. My coach stops real quick, and he says, after I tell him, he pauses for a minute and says, congratulations. And I said, what? He said, you've been telling me for 2 years, if you could do this full time, you could crush it. Now go do it. I'm like, son of a. I'm like, dang it, he's right. So, and I think I even called him that, but and that's where it was. And so for the first couple of months, I really didn't grasp it. I was still hanging on to the holy crap, what just happened type of thing. And it really didn't start to feel it. And then it was after the first of the year, shortly after the first of the year, where I really, really grasped that. And even more so, probably February. And now it's just like unstoppable. There's nothing in my mind thinking that there's any way that anything's going to stop me. And nothing has. I mean, there's been low moments. I'm not going to lie. Everyone gets them. But the balance, the overabundance of abundant moments is what's really driving it,
Yeah, let me you highlighted not even a sticky note in my drawer, which is kind of synchronistic in a way, because the sticky note, right, was an accident. It was discovered when they were trying to make a really tough adhesive for a glue. You know, this guy found something that wouldn't hold to much of anything. It wouldn't even leave a residue behind, which turned into a multi-billion-dollar product, right?
Right.
Because of an accident, something that was, you know, intentionally he was going one direction and then accidentally went another direction. Here you are kind of in a moment that's similar to that. Is it feels at the time like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the one thing you needed to drive you to really push and create something different for your life. Now you have this event, the Upgrade Your Life Tour, that's coming up in September, of one of many things that I know you're creating in your world.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this idea that without frustration, without loss, without sadness, without depression, you wouldn't have been looking for solutions because life would be good. So when you get frustrated and you're feeling sad, you start looking for solutions. How can I make an impact? How can I change things? How can I create it differently? And then you start inventing these amazing things that you weren't looking for before.
Right.
Happy accidents, right? And in the words of Bob Ross,
right.
Happy little accidents.
Oh, and then these trees over here.
Yeah, it's a tree. Let's put a nice little bird over here, and a man fishing. It's a colorful little trout.
We get me on the Bob Ross thing. No, and you're right. And so, and it's sometimes when you're least looking for it when the most impact happens. You know, like recently, you know, you talked about the Upgrade Your Life Tour. You know, I've gotten involved with the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce recently to help with promotion of that, and it's just become, not only is there a lot of support coming around that, revolving around that, and there's a lot of folks that want to be a part of that. I gave a talk, a little presentation the other day on Wednesday to 20 members of the Chamber of Commerce that they call their A-team. It's kind of like their mastermind group. And I thought it was like, okay, you know, it was the day after I got back from Arizona. I plugged away, you know, a few PowerPoints, just hacked them out on the plane ride back from Arizona. I get in there half asleep, you know, we were still on the wrong time zone. So I'm like, I give this presentation and I'm like, yeah, it was okay. You know, I wasn't horrible, wasn't great. And then I've got people coming to me like, oh my God, that was the best speaker we've had in years. And I'm like, okay, either I was really that good or you've had a little lack of speaking.
Wow, you all are deprived, right?
So, but then the 2 days later, so Friday, I go to a larger chamber meeting, which was a combination of the Bay County and Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. And I had people approaching me there just saying, hey, we heard you gave a great presentation. You did this. I'm like, that was 2 days ago. Oh, that word.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like you said, when you're least looking for it, that was just somebody asked me to come and speak. I'm like, sure, I'll throw something together, and threw it together in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and here we are.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody that gets into that space of non-belief? You know, like they get into that space that they just can't see the things changing, or that I can't see it happening for me. And I'm certain that you've been through something similar to that, where you've had moments where it's like, gosh, I feel really down. I don't have hope. What would you suggest there? Or what would you share that has worked for you around that, around moving from that to a space of belief?
So first thing I usually try to do with folks like that, including myself, is bring us back to a place of gratitude.
Yeah.
Okay. There's always something to be grateful for. And even in our worst possible moments, you may have to have somebody like a Nick or a Ryan or a Tony to question the heck out of you to get to what those are. But once you get there, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I don't have to like that, you know? And I use what I call a 4-square journal that I do in the evening time. And it's the 4 squares, the top left is things that I accomplished today. And when I talk to folks, because a lot of folks get down on themselves for not, like, they create a checklist. I'm like, oh my God, I only got 2 of my 8 items done on my checklist. Well, they don't realize that they also went shopping. They did 2 loads of laundry. They cooked dinner. They picked the kids up from school. I mean, there's lots of things that we accomplish on a daily basis that, because we're so used to just going through the motions, we don't give ourselves credit for.
Right.
And so when you start with that, here's what I accomplished today. It really starts putting your mind in a more motivated, positive mindset. And then the second box in the 4-square journal is gratitude. What am I grateful for today? Now, I start with the actions first, because now you start revealing stuff that you're grateful for. And then you can write down everything you're grateful for. And then the next box is, what have I learned today? And this can be anything from a quote you got off a TV show to something you found online, anything. What did I learn today? Because there's always some sort of lesson to be learned. every day, doesn't matter how small. And then the last one is what's my number one priority for tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. I mean, you're already creating engagement for the next day with that. What a cool thing, because now you're committed to showing up the next day. You're creating that commitment to show up. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and that's the key there, like you were talking about, people who get down, is the key is to start with the accomplishments and the gratitude, because that's really going to start putting your mind back towards, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It does seem like my world's coming down, but I got all these things here that, wow, I didn't even realize until I started doing this activity that there's actually a lot more there for me that I thought was there.
Yeah.
It could be pretty easy to get down, like, you know, like when Russell got traded.
Yeah, no, I'm actually. Did you watch the highlights of him in Denver the other day? I don't care.
Oh, Hugh throws that in. That was funny.
Yeah, right.
I laughed.
That's awesome.
I get it a lot. I'm a Seahawks fan in Florida. Come on, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, so I picture the journeys, the phases we go through, and a lot of it's that internal work. And sometimes we'll be going along in our vision and everything's great, and then we'll have a hiccup and something will happen. It'll spin us right back into our down emotions. And, there's opportunity to work through something else. It's almost like hey, here's one more thing for you to grow in, right?
This is somewhere you could grow. He doesn't know the story.
All right.
Yeah, share the story.
All right, so Hugh, coincidence you asked, because we were literally trying to finish that today. And I'm going to pull up a quick video here to show everybody. But
sometimes things don't go exactly as planned. There's a lot of like lessons that could be off of this story.
So we completely had everything ready to go this morning. We thought we had everything clamped down. We were just pouring the last bit of epoxy over the top, and then after it dried tomorrow, we we're going to put the legs on. Everything was going to be done. Well, let's see how this it's loading here. There we had one minor, you can call it minor oversight. Let's see here.
Oversight.
So,
sounds like our government, man. There's one little
oversight.
So if you
$1 million oversight.
If you look at this is actually epoxy dripping out of the end of the table because we did not seal off one side.
So poured it at the top side.
Yeah, we sealed off 3 of the 4 edges, and so Marcus poured from the back side, and then I'm sitting there. I'm turning around cleaning some stuff up, and Marcus says, "What's that sound?" I turn around and it's pouring. The epoxy is pouring out of the front of this. I'm like, not only is it not done, like we said we're going to be done, but that's $200 worth of epoxy that's just poured out.
So on the 4 square, this goes under. We got 3 of the 4 edges done.
What have I learned today?
Right.
Things he actually accomplished.
That's awesome.
So yes, Hugh, to answer your question, no, it's not done. It was intended to be done today, but we're back to the drawing board on that one.
Sometimes though, like I love this because you had choices to make in that moment. You thought things were going the way, you made some decisions, you made some choices, started doing it, said, okay, here we go. And it didn't go the way you thought it would go. So what happens? Like, what does Tony Schmaltz do when something doesn't go his way?
Well, first I stop and say, "Holy!" No.
Yeah, I hope so.
And then work on the next steps, and that goes with anything. It's okay. Sit back here. Here's the scenario. I've got epoxy pouring out of the edge of here. Okay, what do I have close to me that I can work on this? I grabbed a roll of paper towels, started shoving them in there, and then I went inside, and we have some actual towels that we use for our dogs. Well, I grabbed a couple of those. Anika doesn't know yet. Those are gonna be solid as a rock by tomorrow. But
surprise! Happy Mother's Day.
We get them forever now.
Should I tag her in this?
Yeah.
Right. So kind of stopped it, so to speak, to where we could get the tray underneath and catch whatever's left, so it's not continuing to make a bigger puddle. I've invested in a jackhammer to get. No, I'm just joking. So it's more about sitting back and evaluating, because again, there's no panic doesn't do anyone any good. Getting scared, getting nervous, getting excited. What does that do for anybody? Other than poor decision making.
I want to highlight the journeys, because this is killer. You're going along, everything's good, right? You're unconscious because everything's good. It's just flowing. And then all of a sudden there's one thing called pouring epoxy coming off the edge, and you're as awake as you could possibly get. Now, there might not be time to judge it yourself because you've got to fix the problem. So you go into this grief thing like, oh shit, that sucks. So you go into the grief journey of like, this isn't ideal. And then you move right into acceptance. Well, it is what it is. We got to do something. And then you move into uncertainty. How are we going to do something? I don't know. Let's grab whatever we can grab and seal this up as much as we can. So you go into action mode, and there's no time even in that yet for vision, because you have to slow down and get through the survival state first before you can even re-envision this thing and start over again.
Right.
So there's no time right there for you to start thinking, I'm going to think more positively, or I'm going to do this next time, because you're just surviving the situation. But what a metaphor for everybody listening is like, things are going good, then they're not. And then we judge ourselves. And then we go into that grief state of, well, this sucks. This isn't what I had in mind. And then we don't accept that it is what it is. We're pissed that it is what it is, but it is what it is. None of our pissedness is going to change what is, right?
Is that a new word too?
That is a new word. Yeah.
Pissedness. We're coming up with a few here today.
Yeah. We're going to put them all over whatever our dictionary, Giants dictionary. We're going to have our own. But what a sampling of what goes on, and really coming back to trying to stay neutral throughout. If it is what it is, that happened, right? It's all over the floor. Now what? And so that allows you that peace to re-engage with what you would envision for the next time around, because you're not just going to give up on the project. Well, that was a failure. Let's give up on it. You're going to re-envision the whole thing, seal it up maybe a little better this time, and then move forward, right?
Right. No, you're right. And
business.
But it doesn't, and like you said, it doesn't do any good to have our pissedness about it. So, I mean, when I came in and got in the studio with you, what was the first thing I was doing? I was laughing. I'm like,
yeah.
Here we go. This is the way we started,
Well, that blows, but yeah.
It doesn't do any good. And guess what? It makes a great story. And so a lot of people, like you said, we're human beings. We let emotions overtake us. I mean, welcome to planet Earth. However, we hang on those emotions.
welcome to planet Earth.
Here are your WLD. What would Laban do?
Well, since Laban has been at my house for 3 weeks out of the last couple months, I can probably say he would have done like I did and went, holy shit, and tried to grasp it. But again, what a great story. And I've got, even though that's the only video I was able to get to the cloud and show you guys, I've got video of us mixing it, of us starting to pour. I've got a video of Marcus pouring where I'm like, sweet, this is coming out perfect until it starts to come out of the I was like, all right, sweet. Let's see. Actually, I do have a video. I did load up.
Huh.
You could have just, you could give up at this point. Could stop. Could quit. You found a way that it doesn't work. I think of Thomas Edison. Nick talks about this a lot. How many ways before he figured out the light bulb?
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't take you 10,000, and Nick will really run out of towels.
Yeah,
but maybe it's 2 or 3 times.
That's a lot of epoxy.
If you guys are like me, though, I exaggerate. Did he really tally 10,000 times? He's like, well, number one. I just wonder,
on the money.
Was it really 10,000, Thomas Edison, or was it 10 and it felt like 10,000?
Like discrediting Thomas, making all of America question it.
Right. Hey, one way or another, we have a light bulb. I mean, it's
one way or the other. or as he would go by Al. He went by Al. Is it really
Thomas
that way, Al?
So, and that's but those, again, it's a story. It's all these stories, and one of the, as humans, we tell stories. We tell ourselves stories. We tell people stories. And it's our choice how we tell those stories. We can choose to tell the negative aspects. I can choose to be pissed that this thing didn't work out, or I can choose to tell the story as and have fun with it, like I am, because it is fun.
Yeah.
So what? So I got to clean up a little bit, and I out a couple bucks. So what? It's more about the experience. And guess what? We learned a lesson. Make sure you check all four sides of your
Yeah, right.
And all of us learned a valuable lesson today.
Yes, I'm glad. So that, I'm gonna send you a bill. It's okay.
Yeah. Selma Hayek. I watched a video by her. I think it was her. But she talked about if somebody was making fun of you in another language and you didn't know what they were saying, it wouldn't matter what they were saying until you knew what they were saying, and then you would make it yours, right? You would make that story yours, and then you would give it meaning, and then it would have impact. But otherwise, you would just hear them yelling in some foreign language, and it would have no impact on you, which goes back to the idea of what you're saying is it's all story. Like we take and we meaning make from whatever's going on. My daughter, one time we were out walking, she said her brother said something to her. And I said, what if he had called you orange peel? And she's like, that's dumb. I'm like, but what if he did? What would you do at that point? He called you this, but what if he called you that? And she kind of saw that, it's just whatever we put on it, right? Orange peel is no different from butthead or whatever he might have said, fart face. I'm sure that's what 16-year-olds say.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure.
But it doesn't, like you're saying, it's the story, right? What we're telling ourselves about what's going on is what matters.
It's funny you use that reference of the foreign language and having, because my wife is Cambodian, and for many years I would go over to her mom's house or her family's house, and they would talk about me in another language. And so I didn't, I know a few words. I never really learned the language like I probably should have, but one thing I do know is the word for white boy. The word for white boy is a saw. And so I could sit here and listen to a whole blah, 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 blah conversation and then hear a song. I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. What are you saying?
Wait a minute.
Now I know you're talking about me. but again, I could have I would have put stories behind that. My wife's like, no, don't worry. They're saying good stuff about you. And I didn't even go any further. I'm like, cool, it's good. I don't care. But
yeah. But sometimes to mess with people, I'll speak in Spanish and then just throw their name in. And it's amazing to watch them just get so uncomfortable. You just throw their name in randomly and watch them just like shrink. Yeah. And you're saying the nicest things. It doesn't matter, but it's true. We go into that dark side, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But again, it's what we do. I mean, it's not that we mean to do it. It's just the way we've been raised, the way we're trained. I mean, and again, being parents, we're guilty of it ourselves. We put some of that onto our children, and, we're more aware of it today than we ever have been. However, the first word that we tend to learn from our parents is the word no. First one we tend to speak to our kids is no. No, you can't do that. No. Even as a toddler, and when we start moving those around and start using different verbiage and different phrases, it makes a big difference on a bigger impact, positive impact on both our kids and the people around us.
Yeah. So, looking at where you are in your journey, tell us a little bit about your vision, right? So now you're in the space of you're creating some awareness, creating some beliefs around where you're going. What are some of the visions that you hang on to? Is there just one vision? Are there multiples?
So I love storytelling. and so this event is just one of many. That is, one of my favorite things to do is to speak to people in front of people on stages, in small rooms like on Wednesday. It's just, that is one of my favorite things to do. And that's where I see myself, and see myself continuing to run more events like this. And, 2, 3, 4 a year, however many it turns out. And then telling my story through the written word. I'm almost done with one book already and started on a second one. The only reason I started a second one before actually publishing the first is because I'm not sure that first one is the one I want to be my first one released, so to speak. I was still working at a job when I wrote that. Even though it's good stories, it's not maybe necessarily the one I want to be the first. However, I've been writing most of my life as well, and speaking. I spoke in front of 5,000 people when I was 17 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. And that's where I'd really like to be, and where I planned on being before the pandemic happened. You know, I had 3 different speaking engagements that were all lined up, and they all got canceled because of all the lockdowns. So that delayed the Schmaltzy speaking career. but notice I say delayed, didn't, you know, eliminate. So
there's a Jerry Seinfeld joke that talks about, you know, you'd rather be like, public speaking is the number one fear of death next to, or number one fear next to dying, right? I said that wrong, right? He said that you'd rather be the one in the casket than the one giving the eulogy.
Right.
And what I hear in this, though, is that at 17, something inside of you decided that this was a pleasure, not a pain. Right. This was enjoyable, not painful. And that change, that shift in something that for most people is the most scary thing that they would ever consider doing, is it comes back to a perception that you created around it. And that goes with anything. We take things and we make them painful, so we don't want to do them because we don't want to feel pain. Yet it's in shifting that to really, now I love this thing and I'm working into loving this thing, that creates you wanting to do more of it, because we don't want to do things that hurt.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, again, to everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own thing, and you know, I love coaching. I do love coaching. Even though I'm not going to stop doing coaching, that's not where my vision is as far as where I actually want to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then that's the same with anybody. Everybody else has their own person to be. And you're going to hit those challenges. You're going to hit those challenges. You're going to hit those downfalls. You're going to hit those moments of doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Is this really where I want to be? But when it happens, you're going to know it. You're going to know it right here. And it's going to hit you, and you're going to say, that is it. That's the one. That's where I want to be. That's where I'm going. But if you're not feeling it here and you can't really get yourself in that vision, maybe rethink it, or maybe keep going and keep looking and keep jotting down ideas until you actually get to that point.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Well, no, yeah. I only want to hear what I'm looking for, right? Like,
you're like, nope.
No, that's it. Start again.
Make it an awkward silence.
That was good. One of the things that we do is we call it the 11-11. It's one thing in each area, you know, growth, maintenance, pruning, and giving back. And it's just small steps. If you could do one small thing in your life to start showing that maybe it's not as painful as you think, to start showing that I actually can do things, that I can have an accomplishment. Going back to when things were really hard for me, when I was going through the divorce, I had a hard time even getting out of bed. First thing I would do is get up. I would jump out of bed. I would make my bed. You know, going back to that Navy, I think it was a Navy captain that talks about the power of making your bed. So I'd seen that video and I thought, I'm gonna give it a shot. And that was my one thing for the day. That was my accomplishment. But it opened the door for other accomplishments. It's kind of crazy. In psychology and in sales, they talk about the foot in the door technique. That they went out to all these houses and said, can we put this big billboard in your front yard? And people said no, right? And they said, well, how about if we put a sticker in your window? And they said yes to that. So then they came back after they got the sticker in the window and they said, hey, can we put a bigger picture in your window? And they said yes to that. And then eventually they put a billboard in their front yard. And so that foot in the door is kind of the idea in psychology, is if you can get your foot in the door with any creation, then you're likely to go for bigger things in your life. It's the starting that's the hard part. We talk ourselves out of even starting, which goes back to what you're describing, the belief. If we can't see ourselves there, then we're not going to do it. But if we could see ourselves a little bit closer to there, we might be able to do that as our first step.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it's funny you talk about the getting started and the belief behind that. You know, this was something, you know, this event. I literally had this conversation with you guys while we were there in Arizona in January. And I started talking about this with you guys at Gam Gams. And then later after the event on Sunday, I don't remember who I was having a conversation. It may have been Jen Walter. I was sitting there having a conversation talking about my vision for this event. And I think it was Jen, but it was, she's like, well, what's keeping you from doing this? And I paused, and in my mind, the only thing I came up with was excuses, because really that's all it was. I'm like, nothing. nothing's keeping me from doing this. And so it started. We had a great time with her last week.
Yeah.
Again, she's awesome.
Cool.
In fact, she's going to call me when she gets back from California here in a couple days. In fact, we went and saw the 1111 wall. That was kind of cool too. But yeah, so it's about getting started, like you said. And sometimes you have your own kick that will get you going and get you started. And sometimes it takes somebody else giving you a swift kick to get you started. But however it is, it's getting started is the main thing.
Yeah. I've heard that most people will stick with it. About 80% will stick with it if they'll start.
Yeah.
80%. There are a few that won't, and that's okay. But just starting is probably the biggest challenge because we go through the thinking and the thinking gets in the way. Like you said, there's a space of challenging somebody to do something. And there are some that actually manipulate others into doing things. And that doesn't feel as good as a challenge because it's still, if it's a challenge, it's still internally a choice to accept that challenge. Whereas manipulation is, I don't care about your choice. Right. So either we choose to step in and start on our own, or, somebody challenges us to do it on our own. Both of those feel really good when we step into it. The third option doesn't. Yeah. Can you talk to that a little bit?
About the manipulation piece?
Yeah.
Well, I can't say that I've used much of that, so I don't know how much I can speak to it. Yeah. I can go back a few years when I was doing network marketing. At that point I was that used car salesman, man. I was like, oh man, our products are boom, 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 you can make so much money, blah 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 blah. And I was doing well. I mean, I was hitting leaderboards and stuff, but I was literally just playing the numbers. I was literally just talking to as many people as I could and found it that way. And however, because that was based on more so manipulation, the team just went. I was like, yeah, I built up this team, and then as fast as that built, it was gone because that's what it was. There was no authenticity there. There was nothing around that other than me just trying to sell and me worried about the dollar versus the people.
Right.
It's funny. That's also brings me to another one. When I was giving my presentation on Wednesday, I did this and I held up my wallet and I said, if you're worried more about this than you are about this or the person, I pointed at a few people in the audience, then you're already behind. And a bunch of the guys were like, wow. They're like, I'm like, yeah, when you put the person first, you put the people first, and you put service first, the dollars will come.
Yeah. It's true, huh? It shifts things because that's the enrollment is who you're being. And in that way of being, people see that. We learned this from Stephen McGee, right? That your way of being does the enrollment. How you're showing up in the world does the enrollment. You don't have to go manipulate people to work with you. We get so busy shouting ourselves to the world that we forget to help the world.
Right.
We're so busy trying to shine and have them see us that we forget to do what we're actually meant to do, which is to help them. So the more, like you said, the more we help from that space of just truly just being there, don't worry about the money. Money will come from wherever it comes from. It's like the monk that said he was going to build an ashram, and the other monk said, where are you going to get the money? He said, wherever it is.
Yeah. Wherever
it is. Like, it'll just come. And so, yeah, I love that you use that as an analogy. I like that, that visual with the wallet, right? Yeah.
I got a question for you, Tony. Like you've been through so many things and you've done a ton of stuff. You've got lots and lots of experience, and we've barely even scratched the surface of those experiences. A lot of times people would say I'm a self-made man, or oh wow, look what he did. Did you do this all on your own, or were there giants that you stood on their shoulders? And if so, who are some of those giants, and what steps did you take to get around those people to learn and get a different perspective?
So that's a great question. I've actually had a couple of really, really good mentors both in my career and then thereafter. One of the first mentors I had taught me everything I knew. But a little background is I was a quality assurance manager for most of my aerospace life. And before that, I learned from a man who taught me everything I knew about quality assurance. And he was the best director of quality I've ever worked for. He was the worst people person you've ever met, but I learned, I just absorbed everything from him about quality systems and that. And so He ended up actually being terminated from the company because of his lack of relationship skills and that. But I learned everything I knew about quality assurance from this man.
Huh.
Then same company, I ended up becoming friends with the owner of the company, a guy named Scott Rowe. And in fact, him and I just talked a couple days ago. Him and I talk regularly still. But we became fishing buddies, and we hung out, and he taught me how to salmon fish. I came out on his boat, and we started going to Canada together. However, what I learned from him was not so much him with me directly, because he flat out told me right from the start, he's like, Tony, I never reported directly to him. I never made it to that level in that organization. He said, look, you and I, and we established this right from the start, you and I do not work directly with each other. We may work in the same company. I may be the owner. You may be an employee, but we do not work directly with each other. So if we're out fishing, we're out hanging out, we do not talk business. I'm like, cool. Never did. We were great at keeping that friendship, business relationship separate. However, I would be along on trips a lot where he was talking business with somebody else. And so I would get to learn how he got to where he's at, and how he handled people and how he handled certain situations. And that was enough to mentor me and grow my mindset and build my confidence up in what I was doing and how I was doing it. And so that made a huge difference. And then from after he sold that company and I parted ways with that company, there was a bit of a gap in what I would say was definite mentorship. However, then it became the coaches here, the ones that I actually hired. And then it's been just a continuous growth since then. But early on, I did have a couple of those big time mentors.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh.
If you were to do this on your own, how long do you think it would have taken you to figure all this out?
I don't know. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine trying to do it on my own. There was a long time where I did a lot more on my own than I probably should have. And one thing I will definitely be an advocate for everybody and anybody is everybody needs a coach. And whether it's just a mentor you have at your company, whether it's somebody that you're paying, there's always got to be some sort of mentor / coach. Otherwise, and a team. You don't ever think you need to do this on your own.
Yeah.
Ever. There's always people around you, always people to help. And so don't ever try to do it on your own. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself in that moment of self-doubt and frustration that is.
Now I'm curious about the swimming pool backward fall.
So posted on Facebook the other day. How many of you guys? I'm sure you guys have seen the movie The Color of Money.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't.
What?
I know, terrible.
Oh, you deprived people.
Shame.
He just leaves the studio.
He's like, exit.
Exit.
Tom Cruise, Paul Newman, pool movie, playing pool, billiards. And so, okay, so he was asking, and when I posted this, I asked people if they'd seen that movie and if they knew the symbolism behind Paul Newman diving into the pool and the shot of coming out of it. And the symbolism behind that scene was, it was kind of a rebirth for him, a reawakening, where he was this older guy, he was getting his butt handed to him by these younger kids, and he decided to go get his eyes checked and start working out, get things a little going in his life again. And the symbolism behind him diving into and coming out of the water was more of a rebirth, reawakening. Okay, this guy's, his reuse is back. And so that's the explanation behind it, Hugh, is more of the rebirth.
Huh.
And it's something that a lot of people can do well with. And even if it's just a moment of, like, you're having one of those moments that we're talking about, one of those down moments, one of those doubtful moments, it's finding that way to reawaken or rebirth yourself to that
beautiful
belief.
Yeah, I like that. If you were to give a piece of wisdom, let's say you could go back in time and speak to yourself and share one piece of wisdom that you learned that carried you through, what would that be?
Well, I don't know if I can stop with just one.
Okay. Yeah, share more if you like.
But one is what we just talked about. Don't try to do it on your own. I mean, I spent my earlier years in my 20s and maybe even early 30s trying to do it more on my own than I should have. Even though I had these people around me that I know now I learned from, I wasn't aware of that, how much I was learning, and I wasn't asking for help. Ask for help. You know, don't do it on your own. That's one big one. There's always people around you to help you grow. And two, find a way to believe. I mean, the vision. Get yourself a vision. Believe in that vision. I mean, I don't care if you use a vision board, if you have some other sort of visioneering or visualization methods. There's lots of different methods people talk about out there, but get one, use it, and believe in it wholeheartedly. Believe in the abundance versus the scarcity. There's enough out there for everybody, and once you believe, and you believe it down right here, down deep, there's nothing you can't accomplish.
Dude, I like that. Work toward believing it. What I hear in that is, if you can't see yourself at the bigger vision yet, start with a part of that bigger vision that you can see yourself at. Like, build your capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, we talk about that is when your container's full, then you get a bigger container.
Right.
But some people, they have a hard time seeing themselves at that vision. So find where you can within that vision and focus in on that. And then when you get there, focus on the next part and the next part and the next part, and increase your capacity until you get to the point where you can hold that vision and see yourself there.
That's right.
It's powerful. Any other things you want to share today?
Well, I would say really just like we talked about. For all of you guys tonight, the Smithers. For those of you that really want to transform your lives and upgrade your lives, there it is right there. Ryan put it on the screen. UpgradeYourLifeTour.com. Get signed up today. The VIP tickets are going fast. If you want to have a table seat versus a seat, and bigger swag.
You don't want
bag.
just a seat.
You want a
table seat.
Bigger swag bag. You know, a lot of extra bonuses. And we're gonna have this thing sold out by the end of the month. So get in now. There's not much time left. You know, we're already a week into the month. And lastly, you know, I'm always gonna say this. You gotta always remember, never forget to be Schmaltzy.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Ryan. Any other thoughts?
You know, like, I've got to experience Tony in a lot of interesting and awesome ways, and just being able to. He's the same.
I'm glad you said awesome, not awkward.
Yeah, some awkward, awesome ways. But he is the same in person as he is on his videos. He gets in there and he is Schmaltzy. He is himself, and that is the best thing that he could possibly be, because his way of being is incredible. So take that as an example and be the best you that you can be. Whatever Schmaltzy is for you, go do that. You know, and that doesn't put him on some giant pedestal. No pun intended. He is a giant. You're a giant. You're going to have times in your life where you might not be feeling super Schmaltzy that day. It's okay. It's what you do from that point. Recognize it. Take action steps to change. Work on the parts where you're feeling small, and keep stepping, and keep being a giant. We see you. We love you. We appreciate you, Tony. You're the man. We love having you here with us, spending some time. And so, and make sure you buy Anika some new towels.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeez.
surprise!
Happy Mother's Day.
Please tell her Happy Mother's Day.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. For everybody watching, continue to watch the show. Share these with your friends and family. We're at 127 episodes of just this show, over 500 uploads on Wake Up with Giants TV. So if you haven't registered yet, smash that subscribe button, get the notification bell on, because you don't want to miss this. The interaction, the growth that occurs here. If you can't afford coaching, there is more than enough coaching inside of this to change your life forever. So go be a part of it. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. Keep doing it. We'll see you in the next episode. Make it a giant day.
Love you too.